So it is my true pleasure to warmly welcome President Dr. Fernando León from CETYS University here today for the PRME Deans Dialogue. Warm welcome to you. And I'm very honored to have you here in the studio for our little film today and for our conversation about CETYS University, but also your broader perspectives on sustainable development and responsible management education. I know that you, as CETYS University, you have a vision for change that also regards positive impact for business, of course, but also positive impact for the world. I know that you are also accredited by a number of international programs, the WASC, the ACBSP, the ABET, and also some of the Mexican national accreditation programs. I also know that you have campuses in Mexicali, Tijuana, Ensenada, which is a huge endeavor to cover a lot of regions in Mexico, and of course, particularly with a focus on sustainable development and responsible management education. I'm very interested to know how your vision for the future, what your programs and how you deploy in practice, so to speak, in your academic and also in your operational programs, the issue of sustainability operations. I personally had the pleasure as head of PRIME for the past 8 months to work with Victoria Gonzalez, who is a professor and faculty at CETYS University. And she was the chair of the Latin American Caribbean chapter for the past year. And she has done a tremendous work for PRIME and engaging much of her experience from CETYS University in the PRIME community. So please, warm welcome, and allow me to ask the first question to you about how is sustainable development deployed in the vision of CETYS University?
Okay, well, first of all, thank you very much, Dr. Morsing. And it's a pleasure to collaborate with PRIME. As other members will attest to this, we've been trying to the participation of Dr. Gonzalez to be as active and participatory as possible. In the recent past, we even hosted one of the meetings, and very active, very innovative group that was there at our campus in Mexicali. So we're committed to pursuing and promoting the ideals of PRIME. So thank you very much. And I think that in the context of the pandemic, just being here is good. It means
Yes.
we're okay. It means we're okay. So, we've been spared. But in any case, yes, to your first question, I think that what is very important is for institutions, for schools to be purposeful, to be more deliberate in terms of any aspiration pertaining to principles of PRIME, sustainability, etc. While we did not know about PRIME when we started our most recent strategic plan that is now concluding, it nevertheless captured the spirit and embraced many of the aspirations that PRIME has. So what we have right now as an overarching aspect that drives what CETYS does is, first of all, as a result of the mission statement, we are committed to the development of the whole person. And therefore, what we expect is to help prepare graduates that contribute towards a better and improved economic and community development, wherever it is that they happen to end up working or deploying themselves as professional. What that means is that long-range plan or not, there are deliberate aspects within the curriculum that we try to instill this notion of the whole person and of their responsibility to do good and to be participatory wherever it is that they go. That's number one. Number two, with respect to sustainability, the current long-range plan that we're completing right now, although it's already 2021, we're completing a long-range plan called CETYS 2020 that had 4 cornerstones: high quality, global competitiveness, learning communities, and sustainability. And so what we tried to do is, based on those four cornerstones, uh, design strategies and operate different initiatives that would promote and espouse each of these. At the same time, from a curricular perspective, we embedded several learning outcomes, which I think are worth mentioning, because in the broader notion of the principles of Prime, I think most, if not all, relate to this. First, not in order, but first to mention them: entrepreneurship, internationalization, social responsibility, linkages with business and industry, sustainability, and digital literacy. So all of these were, the attempt was over this 10-year period to make sure that we were deliberate, not only in expressing what our aspirations were, but making sure that through the different program levels, through the different colleges and schools, we were able to incorporate in a progressive, assertive, uh, accessible manner all of these aspirations. So I think that definitely sustainability and the principles espoused by Prime are part of the current long range plan, and will be part of the continuation of the emerging and successor long range plan, which we will launch in 2022, CETYS 2036. So we're committed to this, not in terms of saying, but in terms of making sure that it is reflected in the academic and operational part of our institution.
That sounds very impressive, and as a true aspirational and a wonderful task that you've set up for yourself. Can you say something about, you know, the interdisciplinarity of sustainability? Because I understand that you actually have three colleges at CETYS University: the Business Administration College, the Engineering College, and the Social Sciences and Humanities College. So I'm sort of thinking about you, and I can see that in your College of Engineering, you have a sustainable and renewable energy focus, in particular
Yes,
for students
yes.
to
Well,
focus.
I think that when we talk about the third cornerstone, which is learning communities, it is, on the one hand, making sure that the silos, as they understand themselves, silos being a department, a school, a college, or a campus, that their first concern is, of course, the immediate. You know, they do their own, they're successful, that's it. But promoting the notion of learning communities meant sensitizing that the results or aspirations that they were trying to achieve are on many occasions, contingent upon the role of others. So school A is reliant and dependent on school B for some basic things. So interdisciplinary has come later, but I think the notion of collaboration across silos is really the key to achieving interdisciplinary and multi-area collaboration. So that we have started working on. We were, before 2010, to a great extent, not entirely, but to a great extent, three campuses that had schools in each campus that communicated, but not sufficiently enough, so that it appeared like we had three brands: Campus A, CETYS Campus A, CETYS Campus B, CETYS Campus C. So we said, no, we're one. There's one brand. So we need, as an organization, to collaborate across different boundaries and begin to integrate and do much better what it is that we're trying to accomplish for our students and for our community. Okay, so that was one, and that has been the focus of most of these 10 years. Working with the schools, working with the colleges, working with the campuses. Now, where we end up 2020 and begin 2021, which will be a central piece of CETYS 2036, is one of many I's, the letter I, that are going to be important. And one of them is interdisciplinary. Interdisciplinary, again, not as something that we just mentioned, but something that we are actually doing. And as we were concluding 2020 and beginning 2021, there are a few courses that involve business and engineering faculty and students that are collaborating across, agreed upon courses and themes that really reflect what you find in the business world, or in the real world. In the real world you find silos, but more often than not it's multidisciplinary, mixed teams from very different sides of an organization that are collaborating. So yes, we're moving in that direction, in terms of interdisciplinary, but in order to get there we had to work on breaking down silos and trying to espouse communication, collaboration, awareness, and then initiatives that brought them together. So we're there. We cannot claim that we are experts in terms of interdisciplinarity, but it is part of the wave of the future. Just like other I's, another I is innovation, another I is inclusion, another I is integral, another I is international. So I think it is an important variable. It cannot be one regardless of the other. You have to begin to find ways of interweaving these eyes as you move forward, and that means also across disciplines.
So in your thank you, but in your sort of perspective and based on your experiences, what is the most important thing about the interdisciplinarity when we think about sustainable development, when we think about responsible management education? Why do we need the interdisciplinarity according to
Well,
you?
I think the real world requires for us to, number one, to work as teams, to approach a common problem from different dimensions that enrich the possibilities for a solution. Okay, so I think that is very, very important. That's how the real world works. And unfortunately, the way we educate our students is in silos. It's business only, it's engineering only, it's medicine only, it's law only. And in the real world, you get to interact with most others. So I think we need to move in a direction in which, not denying and negating the importance of experience in a profession, sensitivity of the contribution and role that other disciplines and other players can bring to the table as you are trying to solve a specific problem. And that's a mindset. And that's something you need to experience and exercise. And so I think that increasingly we will need in colleges and universities around the world to generate experiences that allow that, either through learning activities, through courses that are jointly offered to two or more, colleges and schools, because that's the wave of the future. That's how the real world works, and we need to contribute and push in that direction.
So a much more collaborative mindset,
Yes,
you could
yes,
say,
yes,
going into
yes.
the future.
Definitely, I think that the pandemic has shown us, each of us is in our own house or location, secluded location, yet many problems and issues we've been able to solve. It's through communication, collaboration, coordination. It's group work. It's essential.
Yes. So I also know that, I know that CETYS University, as I said in the beginning here, is internationally accredited by a number of accreditations. And I also know that you are the president-elect of the International Association of University Presidents. So could you say something about accreditations, but also an international association of presidents as a sort of setting a scene, setting a tone from the top, and how they can help us as schools to move on towards more sustainable development into our programs?
Well, so several things. I think that in terms of the accreditation efforts that we have implemented, these were aspirations that were not solely a part of CETYS 2020. These are aspirations that some time ago the institution and the board had set and laid out. And fortunately, different presidents have provided continuity And little by little, we've been moving in that direction. So the first thing is a commitment to quality. Second is that even though you might have been much better after a certain point in time, that the aspiration continues to achieve increasing levels of quality, increasing levels of recognition and legitimacy of the quality that you espouse. And for us, being in the border region, undeniably it meant going beyond Mexico.
Mhm.
And who's our neighbor? The US. Who has a globally acknowledged and recognized system of quality assurance? The US. So we began pursuing that. And perhaps we approached this a little bit different than most schools of business, standalone schools of business, or European universities, in the sense that it is more extensively visible and present to have program accreditation and less institutional accreditation. Not that one is better than the other. In our case, we had always focused on the institution as a whole. And where we found echo and possibilities to explore was with US institutional accreditation, which we pursued eligibility first, candidacy second, and then accreditation as such. And it was a deliberate effort that we embedded first as a special project, but then something that was partly that was inherent into our long range plan. So it was one and the same. What is the aspiration? High quality institution. How are you going to achieve that? Better faculty, more innovative programs, learning outcomes, more globally prepared students, and that's what the accrediting agencies measure. So, you know, so it was hand in hand, and as we were working through the long range plan, we achieved institutional accreditation that opened the door so that then we could pursue program accreditation in the US for business first and then for engineering. So I think it has been a massive, major commitment that does not end here. It is now something we have to maintain and expand. So that's number one. I think that presidents, regardless of the context, need to exercise their leadership, raising awareness and rallying the university community along and among several issues that are inherent in any community and the university needs to embrace. And it needs to embrace and begin to deploy across the university so that when we have students graduating, when we have professors involved in projects, they are in fact moving the needle assertively, uh, promptly, purposefully in aspects such as you mentioned, sustainability, responsible management, ethics, concern for the other, focus on long term. So I think as leaders, we need to be aware of this, prepare for this, talk to peers, and organize the university so that there's a greater awareness, there's a more deliberate approach, it's embedded into the long range plan, and with the collaboration of the professoriate and of key leaders within the university, you can then move forward. It is not going to happen by decree. In certain contexts, it might help, but it is not going to happen by decree. So we have the responsibility as leaders to create the context and to rally the groups so that it is a group effort that allows us to move forward. And I think that's what has helped at the institution. All of these aspirations, sustainability, internationalization, etc., it has been a matter of creating awareness and commitment on the part of a key group and then creating a multiplier effect. Forgive me for using a religious term, but I think it captures the essence of this. And it is kind of an, uh, 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 in Spanish, you call it evangelización. In other words, prophets or apostles of that message that you convey to the university, and the more you have, the easier it is to deploy. So third, with respect to IUP, I think that what IUP has done, it's an organization that's over 50 years old, created in the UK, but global, that tries to act as a forum to precisely put on the table key issues that leaders around the world are facing. And that as a result of that conversation, of learning about what works in one context and what works in another context, we can draw from that as resources so that within our own region, within our own institution, we can take our respective universities and regions from one level to the next level, or obviously higher level of performance, higher level of achievement, higher level of contribution. I hope that this captures at least moderately the question you asked.
Yes, no, no, certainly, indeed. Indeed, it does. And here, towards the end of our conversation, can I ask you for a sort of a final reflection on where are we going from here? Where would you like to see us go from here into the future as business schools, as some of the most important institutions, I think, in the world, generating education for the future leaders? If you have a
Well,
final remark, I would
yeah,
appreciate
well,
it.
two things, I think. One is that we need to go beyond just paying lip service to actually achieving specific projects. In terms of sustainability, it means going beyond generating a statement and making sure that we have concrete actions that impact the academic arena. Whether this refers to making sure that there are learning outcomes across a program, across a school, or across the whole university that espouses this regardless of their level of specialization. Sustainability is valid for lawyers, engineers, business, so psychologists. There's a different dimension. So I think we need to make sure that we take it beyond just the expression. Uh, at the same time, we need to make sure that we take it beyond just the academic arena, and that as an organization, a university reflects the commitment to sustainability and the principle as such. What does this mean? If you truly believe in the case of sustainability, well, what about establishing a zero waste program on your campus? At the very least, you separate the type of garbage or leftover that you have so that something as simple as that you're implementing, the type of lighting you have, the type of buildings you have, making them smarter, perhaps establishing a solar farm within your institution. And I'm saying all of these because we've done all of these at the institution. So I think that it's important for leaders not only to embrace the principle, but to find ways of operationalizing it. Okay, very important. And then, as in closing, I think two thoughts. One is that the pandemic has caused a greater awareness of the potential impact if we decide to do nothing. Okay, in some cases, it has a positive, it has a negative. We've seen that certain indicators have gone down as a result of the pandemic. Can you imagine if we did it in a deliberate manner the next 5 to 10 years? So I think it has created greater awareness of the potential that we have, that through our own actions, we can impact what is happening in the environment. Second is that the pandemic is also creating or generating a greater awareness of disparities, inclusion, diversity, empathy, and concern for others. I think we're more sensitive to that. Third, mental health of students. The pandemic is telling us that we better pay attention to this. Fourth, although there are certain regions that still are showing some skepticism towards technology, I think if you look at the flip side, technology has helped us a lot. to cope. Not necessarily ideal, but it has helped us a lot. And then fifth, that in the long run. I think I would close with a comment made by Tom Friedman at the close of the year that captures this aspect. And he said the following. He said, more people can compete, connect, and collaborate in more ways across many more places for less money than ever before. It doesn't mean that the pandemic is positive, but look at what the pandemic forced us to do that in many ways we didn't want to even try. I think there's a learning there that we should explore, perhaps embrace, and maybe incorporate into the new normal.
Leon, I'm really pleased about you pointing to the whole person, pointing to the learning communities, pointing to the need for us to work across disciplines, across silos, and to walk our talk beyond also academia, and also to make, you know, our own talk walk, so to speak, because we are now entering this very moment, the decade of action, according to the UN Secretary General. This is what we are about into the next 10 years to actually achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. So I want to thank you for this inspirational talk and this PRME Deans Dialogue. Thank you very much, Professor President Fernando León, CETYS University. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Morsing, and thank you for this opportunity. Thank you.